Welcome to Finish Friday. Or Flight Friday? I haven't really figured that one out. So let me know in the comments down below. Which one should we go with? There are lots and lots and lots of finished whiskeys out there. And one of the ones that is kind of universally beloved is the Woodford Double Oaked. And recently, Woodford released an upgrade to that nationwide that used to be distillery only. The Double Oaked. Now, this is getting a bit of controversy. The original Double Oaked that was distillery only was a little more expensive than the standard Double Oaked, but this is coming in at like $200, and in some places it's even more. I know in Washington State, because of our taxes, basically after taxes, you're paying close to $240 for this thing, if not slightly more than that, depending on where you go. And considering that it's only 90.4 proof, the question becomes, is this thing worth it compared to the regular Double Oaked, which has long been considered probably like the gold standard of double oaked bourbon, or even slightly more premium things like maybe the Michter's Toasted, or in this case what we're also going to compare it to is the Peerless Double Oaked, because that's becoming more and more available nationwide, and it tends to be on the shelf far more commonly than something like this. So, that being said, we're not going to do like full 2-Minute Tuesday style notes. These are going to be a little more comparative, and we'll get some basic notes, but since we're doing kind of a micro flight, a little hard to do 2-Minute Tuesday on every single one. We're going to crack this bad boy open. We're going to crack open a fresh bottle of original Double Oaked, and I've already got a pour prepped of the Peerless Double Oaked, so we can compare all three and kind of just decide, is this actually worth it? You know, for a $200 bottle, I kind of expect a bigger cork pop. How is that better? We're going to start with the basic Woodford Double Oaked. Now, for me personally, I don't know about you, but this is actually one of my favorite bourbons to use in either like a bourbon and coke or a lot of mixed drinks. Just because that double oaking process does add a lot of extra flavor, and it makes that bourbon more prevalent in a lot of my drinks. Now, it's not necessarily the highest proof. A lot of people might go for something a little higher proof, but I just like the flavor. So on the nose right away, even at 90.4 proof, just like the Double Oaked, there's this obvious oak influence, but also kind of getting into that almost marshmallowy sweetness that's in there. It's definitely a little more dark, kind of molassesy, brown sugary too, but there is something that's a little lighter in there. But this is a dark, kind of rich pour. It's not giving you some big, bright, fruity notes, but it's still kind of pulling you in, right? Let's do a quick taste. I really like this stuff. If you don't like heavy oak influence, you probably naturally don't go toward double oaked products in general. This is one of those things where if you like oak presence, where it's just on the verge of getting tannic, but not bitter yet, right? Where it's just, there is that deeper wood sugar, that very molassesy brown sugar thing going on, a lot more of the oak flavor profile coming forward. There's a reason why Woodford Double Oak is kind of the gold standard for getting that flavor profile. It doesn't linger super long, but what you are getting is lots of kind of barrel char and spice from that double oaking process, and there's a constant like wood sugary sweetness that is there. And so it's that very dark, like I said, brown sugar kind of molasses thing. This is an oak lover's standard shelfer pour. If you really want to enjoy oak influence in a bourbon, this is fantastic, and it's available like everywhere. And that's before you get into the picks, because the picks get even better. What about when we start talking about the home defense weapon here? And yeah, I think that's part of the price. I honestly think part of the price is because Woodford is including a home defense weapon. So not only can you have a little pour to get a little courage, you can take somebody out with this bad boy. All right, double. Let's see what you got. Okay. It's so different on the nose. I mean, it's oaked, but it's way sweeter. And there's like a touch of tannic on the nose of the regular double oak. It's like right on that verge of where you start smelling that kind of almost bitter thing. This is not. This is like sweet on sweet on sweet. I don't know. I might be a fan of this thing even at the price tag. Let's taste it. Okay, that's funny. So, first sip, right? For clarification, I've never had double oaked. I've only had double oaked. This is my first time. It feels thinner. It's the same proof, and it's been oaked even more, so in theory you would think that that extra oaking process, right, would help it linger longer, but it actually feels thinner on the palate and less viscous than the regular double oaked. It's oddly not riding that edge of bitterness as much. It is definitely way more sweet forward. Not crazy sweet, right? We're not talking like some of your Buffalo Trace big fruity sweet notes, but this is a very like molasses cookie. If you've ever had those, they used to be kind of like a staple growing up, especially in winter around where I grew up. So there's definitely a much more char influence too. It's to the point of where it almost tastes burnt. It's almost in the part where it starts getting like acrid. It's like really flirting that line where like the double oak is flirting the line of tannic. This is flirting the line of that like burnt kind of taste for me. But there's a bunch of underlying like molasses cookie sweetness kind of going on. It lingers way different. I can still taste it through here, right? But it is mostly that barrel char influence and less of the sweet notes that I had in the double oaked. So if you really, really, really want that ultra oak influence, this might be interesting. I don't know that it's worth $200. I think maybe if it was like $100, you know, that would be a little more considerable. Maybe don't put it in the home defense weapon bottle because that clearly costs them a little bit of extra money. But like, if this is a, you know, like $70-ish bottle, I could see this being like $100. I can't see this being basically triple the price. Like, that doesn't make any sense. We can even be like really generous and say only double the price. I just can't see this being worth it at that price tag. It's an interesting experience, but I think this is one where you go to a bar, you try it once, and then you're gonna really make a decision whether you want that big in your face burnt barrel char note and the underlying sweetness that goes with it. Because like on the nose, this is so much better on the nose than it is on the palate for me. And my friend, Swollen Barkeep, loves this stuff. So I don't know, this might end up at his place. But just to round it out, just around this Flight Friday, Finish Friday, comments down below, tell me which one. We're gonna try the Peerless Double Oaked. Now, my bottle has been open for a little bit, so they're not all 3 fresh cracks. I took it to a small share, I don't know, like, I think 6 months ago. And it got touched just a little bit, not a lot. This is at barrel proof, so it's another like 20 points higher. I think it's 111? 108.4. So it's 108.4. So it's 18 proof points higher, 9% more alcohol, but it smells more balanced. It's not, I don't want to say smoother because everybody's going to lose their mind over like, well, what's smooth in a scent? It's not very ethanol-y. There's a lot of like beautiful sugar in it, and definitely oak. The thing is, that's kind of all I get. I'm not getting that kind of like tannicky note that I got out of regular double oak where it's just like, right, it's flirting the edge of becoming bitter. And I also didn't get that big kind of like char that I got out of the double oak. I still think out of all 3 noses right now, the double oak might have the best nose, but let's get in the palate on this bad boy. Ooh, this is playing both games because the barrel char and spice, that like getting on the edge of burnt note, not quite as close to being like truly acrid as the double oaked was, but that barrel char is way more present here. Also that like we're just on the very verge of being so oaked we become tannic. It is flirting that line like the standard Woodford double oak is so close. But then there's this like chocolate chip kind of cookie dough thing going on where there's that light but enjoyable bitterness that you would get out of like a darker chocolate where it's just sweet enough to where it's not truly bitter. You know, I don't know if I'm describing that well, but it's right there, and there's definitely like lots of brown sugar and vanilla in this. But boy, that oak is saying hello. And I think, again, even like with the regular double oaked, if you're not a fan of heavy oak influence, you're not going to want any of these 3. I want to be very, very clear because these have oak. And they're in there for certain, and hanging the predominant flavor throughout the entire palate, even in the finish, is oak. So if you don't like that, you won't like any of these 3. Of the 3, I think the double oak drinks the most mellow, which makes sense. It's lower proof compared to the Peerless, despite having that almost acrid burnt kind of thing from all the barrel char. The tannic thing that comes out of here and in the Peerless is getting a lot closer to a note that I don't like compared to, say, that almost acrid burnt thing. I know I'm splitting hairs here, but I feel like The best nose was the double oaked. The best palate so far is just like barely flirting with the Peerless, but I feel like it's enough strong flavors that certain folks might not enjoy that, and they might prefer the regular double oaked instead. Let's add one more into the mix. What if we go all the way to this bad boy? If we're going to compare harder to find and or pricier allocated whiskey in the sense of the double oaked, why don't we see what the Michter's Toasted 2024 release specifically does in comparison, because it's also a low proofer. That's a cork pop. Now I know some people are going to want me to break into the Old Foresters instead, but I want to do a different video with Old Forester, so also I love Michter's. A little splash. Now for reference, the Michter's Toasted is at 91.4 proof, so only a single proof point higher than both double and double oaked. I know it says toasted, but it is actually a double oak finish. They're just using toasted barrels as the finish on top, so. For my nose, this is the one. It has this lovely oak presence, but it has a lot of like marshmallow and graham cracker, which we normally kind of prescribe to toasted bourbons, but oh, it's more oaky than it is that marshmallow and graham cracker. Let's try it. I don't know what kind of like magic voodoo Michter's does in their proprietary wood seasoning process for their barrels, but their oak profile hits my palate so incredibly well, because I get all this like rich and like a little bit of barrel spice in it, but it is always in just the right balance with the sweet notes. There's this wonderful like toasted marshmallow on graham cracker kind of thing going on, getting into a s'more, but none of the chocolate. And then there's this big, beautiful oak influence, wood sugars, that kind of almost brown sugary sweetness, and all this the like barrel spice just sits here, and it's just like, it's the lightest little tingle. It's just there enhancing. I'm gonna say this: if you're thinking about the double oaked and you're considering it and price doesn't bother you, I might consider the Michter's Toasted instead. But if you like that super big influence from the double oak, I think the Peerless is probably the better option. But if you don't want that big char note, you might want to go with just the age-old Woodford double oak, maybe even a pick. For me personally, Woodford double oak, not worth the money. It's not worth it. If this is a $100 bottle, maybe $125 bottle, I would understand it. But at its current price, I can see why these are still sitting on shelves in Washington State, a place where we're pretty ravenous for our whiskey. That's it. What are your thoughts? Have you tried any of these products? Maybe you've tried some other double oaks that you think beat all of these. I want to hear from you guys in the comments down below. Also, what should we name this? Flight Friday? Finish Friday? Maybe both, because maybe we won't always do finishes, but this series I'll try to do as often as I can, but it won't be an every week guaranteed kind of thing for right now, just because I only have so much time to film right now. If you've enjoyed this video, if you like my psychotic way, or even if you have some suggestions on how to improve it, please let me know. Leave a like, and if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing, because once we hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to give away a number of sample packs to let you try some really, really awesome whiskey. And when we hit 1,000 subscribers, I'm going to give away an E.H. Taylor single barrel, along with a few other things. As always, my friends, thank you so much for watching, and stay awesome.